What's going on? My name is Joe, and Matt Gaetz was tapped as the Attorney General, and at the very least nominated. And I think that is a good thing. So I'm going to lead with that off the jump. So if you think that it's not a good thing, this probably isn't the video for you. But if you do think it's a good thing, feel free to stick around. So like I said, my name is Joe, and I'm practice talking on the internet, and we're talking about Matt Gaetz today. So buckle up. The systems that make up America are these just varying frameworks, right? So Congress has a particular framework. The Senate has a particular framework. House of Representatives, those two things are different frameworks. Those two frameworks engage with the Senate as a framework. The president has a framework of how he has to navigate. And for the longest time, all of these frameworks, in the eyes of liberals especially, and conservatives to a lesser extent, are these infallible things that you don't challenge the frameworks. These frameworks are fixed. They're fixed for a reason, and you ought not to do anything with them. And the way that you enact change in society is to enact change within these political frameworks that we function under. This is where you get the idea of sort of reformists, where reformists, generally speaking, believe that the way that you change society is to gradually navigate within the frameworks, and those frameworks are there for a reason. So those frameworks obviously can produce rights for trans folks, rights for Black Americans, rights for anybody. That's kind of bullshit. That's something I don't agree with. Matt Gaetz is an example of an individual who is willing and open to challenging and changing frameworks. And that's something that I think we should encourage in politicians. When Matt Gaetz implies and Donald Trump implies that he is open, or they as a tandem are open and willing to completely change how the Department of Justice does business, I believe them. And the believing should be pretty apparent based on the reactions that you are seeing from people who are against Matt Gaetz and don't want to support him. Make no mistake, by the way, this man is going to be challenged when it comes to the nomination. And Democrats and Republicans alike are going to get their clips. They're going to get all of their clips about Matt Gaetz and his weird things that he does with kids. Matt Gaetz being somebody who just wants all the whole democracy to burn. All the talking points are going to come alive during those hearings. And I'm excited for those hearings. The hearings are going to be really funny. With that being said, I think that this is a decision that I think folks should support. And that's weird to say coming from the Trump administration, but hey, listen, we're dealing with the food that we got, and we got Thanksgiving coming up, so we got to make some dinner, right? So I want to play a clip about what he is talking about in regards to lobbying, because I think that's a really interesting example that I want to give in terms of why I think Matt Gaetz is a good thing for the political system as Attorney General.
I believe that no member of Congress, by House rule, should be allowed to accept a donation for their campaign from a federal lobbyist or a federal political action committee.
And I will ask for a permanent ban on taxpayer funding of campaigns.
The second thing I would suggest is that if someone is a member of Congress, they should be prohibited from lobbying for life. Why is it so hard to say that you should choose one side or the other to be on? You're either in the law-making game or you're in the influence peddling game.
A lifetime ban on lobbying by former members of Congress and cabinet members.
I will also introduce an amendment to have a ban on members of Congress trading individual stocks. How can we say that that is not something that dilutes our trust in markets and in governance when people are essentially able to bet on the outcomes that they have an ability to somewhat control?
We want a ban on members of Congress getting rich by trading stocks with insider information. And many of our great members agree with that. They actually agree with that.
Yeah, and again, like he talked about this on his website as good ideas that I forget the exact wording, but good ideas are contagious. And then he proposed like those three sort of ideas. One, he believes that you shouldn't be taking donations from federal lobbyists and PACs. So those are the individuals like John Ballard, Gina Adams, Jack Abramoff, and I think another one of note is Tony Podesta. Probably the closest one that y'all probably hopefully familiar with. And then even the idea of becoming lobbyists in the first place. So this gets rid of the Heidi Heitkamps, the Joe Crowleys, Trent Lotts of the ilk. And then with that being said as well, like just the whole idea of trading stocks. Again, I don't think that's a disagreeable thing or disagreeable stance. I say all that to say that Matt Gaetz is open and willing to challenge the frameworks that make up these different institutions, and in some ways, at the very least, dismantle the frameworks and construct new ones. I think what people's fear with Matt Gaetz, which I think is generally unfounded, is that he just wants to completely get rid of these frameworks and not replace them with anything else. No, I think it's very clear that he wants to reimagine what governance looks like currently, and the only way to reimagine what governance looks like is to get rid of those who are resistant to change, who are resistant to the changing of these frameworks, which is going to be legacy members of these institutions. So if you are able to brag about I was working all the way back to the Clinton administration, then you probably should be afraid of your job. Your job security is up for grabs. Again, he has to get through confirmation. I've already, I hope I made it clear that it's going to be very contentious. But with that being said, I think Matt Gaetz is a good thing moving forward. It just is going to be a little complicated about substantiating that good in a way that makes sense for people, because I think a lot of people are very comfortable with the way that the frameworks currently exist, especially within the DOJ. But the only way that these institutions are going to change for the better are people who are willing to challenge these institutions and these institutional frameworks. So I invite it. I am excited for what Matt Gaetz has to offer. That does not mean I'm enthusiastic of what Matt Gaetz has to offer, but I do think that this can be a very powerful bargaining chip in the future. If you disagree, that is fine. Feel free to argue in the comments. I'll be there for a bit. I tend to try to stay active within that. And if you want to hear more about that, I post videos every day. So be sure to subscribe and you can get that in your feeds. With that being said, I will see you